The Courage to Be Yourself, a story of reconciliation and forgiveness.
In a small village in southern Italy, embraced by soft hills and caressed by the salty sea wind, lived the Giordani family. Their stone house, with ancient and sturdy walls, overlooked an olive grove that seemed to extend to the horizon. Life flowed simply, marked by the rhythms of nature and consolidated habits, but behind those always half-closed windows, there was a story that would change the course of that family forever. Paolo Giordani was a man of rigid principles, deeply rooted in tradition and a sense of morality that did not allow compromise. With his firm step and firm voice, Paolo represented the unquestioned authority of the house. Anna, his wife, was the perfect counterpoint, a sweet and patient woman, but too often silent, especially when it came to challenging her husband's decisions. Chiara and Marco were the couple's two children, and they also seemed to embody this dichotomy. Chiara was the sun, brilliant, outgoing, always ready to conquer anyone with her charisma. Marco, on the other hand, was more like the moon, silent, thoughtful, with a look that seemed to hide an entire universe of unspoken emotions. The family considered him a model boy, an excellent student, respectful, always ready to help others. But beneath that apparent perfection, Marco hid a secret that weighed on his heart like a boulder. Since he was a child, Marco had felt that he was different, even if he couldn't explain exactly how. As he grew older, the awareness became clearer: he was attracted to boys. But in the context of his small town, where every deviation from the norm was observed and judged, that reality was unacceptable. Every insult whispered at school, every cruel joke hurt him deeply, but Marco soon learned to hide the pain behind a kind smile. One winter evening, after months of internal torment, Marco decided to face the truth. His family was gathered around the kitchen table, like every evening, talking about the usual things: Chiara's school successes, Paolo's expectations for his children's future. Marco felt his heart beating wildly as he gripped the glass in his hands. "I have to tell you something," he said suddenly. His voice was barely a whisper, but it was enough to silence the room. "I'm gay." Those two words seemed to echo, suspended in the air. Paolo jumped up, knocking over his chair. His face was a mask of disbelief and anger. "What kind of nonsense are you talking?" he shouted. Anna remained still, her hands clenched around the edge of the tablecloth, while Chiara looked at him with a grimace of surprise. No one spoke again that evening, but from that moment on Marco's life changed radically. Every day he became more unbearable. Paolo avoided looking at him, Anna seemed uncertain between the desire to support him and the fear of alienating her husband, and Chiara, while not showing contempt, distanced herself emotionally. Marco felt like a stranger in his own home, a silent shadow who tried not to disturb anyone. His only thought was to leave. The escape came one winter morning, under a leaden sky that seemed to reflect his state of mind. With a suitcase full of clothes and a head full of dreams and fears, Marco left for Milan. The city welcomed him with its bright lights and frenetic chaos. For the first time, Marco felt free. Here he could be himself without the fear of being judged. It was in a small cafe near the Duomo that she met Luca. Marco was sitting at the counter, lost in his thoughts, when a warm voice interrupted him. That conversation was the beginning of something special. The years passed, but a piece of Marco's heart remained anchored to that small village in the south. Then came that phone call. His sister, Chiara, told him that Paolo, their father, was seriously ill. Marco hesitated. The memory of the rejection still burned, but Luca encouraged him. Sometimes, going back is the only way to move forward. When Marco crossed the threshold of the house, he found his father unrecognizable. Paolo was consumed by the disease, his body frail, his eyes full of remorse. In the first few days, the silence between them was deafening, but Marco did not give up. With Luca at his side, he began to take care of his father. Chiara, on the other hand, remained distant. Busy with work in her new family, she found one excuse after another not to return. The weight of the situation fell entirely on Marco, but he did not back down. Every gesture, every attention seemed to melt a little of the ice that had separated them for years. One evening, as Marco was tidying Paolo's blankets, his father took his hand. "I didn't think you'd come back," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Marco felt a knot loosen in his chest. Years of pain and rejection melted away in an instant. He didn't respond with words, but with a smile that said it all: forgiveness had already been granted. When Paolo closed his eyes for the last time, there was no trace of rancor, but only peace. Marco returned to Milan with Luca, taking with him not only the memory of his father, but the awareness that love, even when late, can still save what seemed lost. If you liked it, subscribe to the channel for more videos.